What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Cosmic Wonder, where we talk about Marvel every day. And yesterday we got the trailer for the Fantastic Four First Steps, the Fantastic Four reboot in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And the really big thing that this teaser trailer confirmed about the Fantastic Four is that the universe that they are in right now, currently, that we see in the trailer, is not the main universe that you have seen in the MCU, the 616 Sacred Timeline. This is an alternate universe set in the past, but it's also a retro futuristic universe, so even though it's taking place in the 60s, it's still very, very advanced, which is perfectly fitting for the smartest man alive, Reed Richards, aka Mr. Fantastic, who is seemingly working on something very, very big in the Fantastic Four First Steps movie that is hinted at in the trailer. Something that can be insanely huge moving forward in the MCU, and something that will tie in the Fantastic Four to the rest of the multiverse and the multiverse saga, ultimately leading Reed Richards to be one of the main characters of Avengers, Doomsday, and Secret Wars, and how he gets to that position. Now, if you caught my breakdown of the trailer yesterday, you heard me talk about Reed's chalkboard and how he is doing a lot on this chalkboard. But we believe that we know what he is working on here, and that is a multiversal bridge. I pointed this out yesterday, but to the left of Reed Richards seems to be some type of an experiment that has a platform and a tube going from one spot to another on it. And the first spot says enter, the second spot says exit. And a lot of people are posting this online now, including some insiders like Daniel RPK. And what this means for the Fantastic Four First Steps movie is very important, because it could tell us two very important things. Things that we have expected and kind of heard rumors about, but also some things that might explain the secret cameo that is coming in the Fantastic Four. Remember, on set of Marvel Studios when filming the Fantastic Four, they made sure to keep one person a secret. They covered this person's face when going from one lot to another, or simply just going anywhere on the set. They made sure that this person was always covered and never revealed. And Pedro Pascal went on to post in his story a picture of him and this person, but this person's face was covered. And this in the trailer could explain who this person is, but first let's talk about a huge plot leak that we've heard for this film that states, yes, this is a different universe that the Fantastic Four are in. However, they did not originally start off in this universe, but they did in fact start off in the main 616 timeline. The plot leak says that due to an experiment, they got sucked into another dimension and they ended up in a different universe. And ever since then, they have been working on a way to get back to their original home. This scene right here supports that plot leak. This does seem like he is indeed trying to work on a multiversal bridge, which he does indeed do in the comics, and also really plays into what is happening in the Fantastic Four. We know that the Future Foundation is going to be a big part of this movie. Marvel has advertised that a lot, especially with announcing the trailer. And they could work in the Future Foundation and the multiversal bridge into this story in a very great way that leads into the overall arching story of the multiverse saga. In the comics, Reed Richards built the bridge after the events of Civil War. Reed started to search for answers as to what could have prevented the Civil War from happening. So he created the bridge to observe parallel worlds, essentially looking into other universes' Earths to figure out how they have achieved peace. And yes, it was actually a physical portal that Reed would walk through and could go into other different universes. It wasn't just used for looking into other universes, but you could physically go through it as well. And they did, which led to the Interdimensional Council of Reeds, which is the second thing that this scene right here could imply is happening. You see, what happened in the comics is as Reed Richards built the bridge, he found out that other variants of Reed Richards and other universes had also decided to do the same thing. A lot of them built bridges, multiversal portals. Then many of the Reed Richards variants got together to form the Interdimensional Council of Reeds. They gathered together to try and solve everything, which had always been the goal of Reed Richards, to try and solve everything. So they all came together and used their intellect combined to try and actually solve that for the entire multiverse. However, our main Reed Richards did not join because the Interdimensional Council of Reeds required every Reed Richards that joined to abandon and leave their families behind. And because of the relationship that Reed Richards had with his father, Nathaniel Richards, he decided to not do this. He wanted to be there for his family. The Interdimensional Interdimensional Council of Reeds in the comics was formed by 3 different variants of Reed Richards, all wielding an Infinity Gauntlet. So like I mentioned, either one or two things could be happening here. One is that Reed could be building this so they could get back to their original universe, but 2, once he builds this, the Council of Reeds could show up to recruit him. And since we know that in the Fantastic Four First Steps, Reed and Sue are together and they are going to have their firstborn child, Franklin Richards, it makes a lot of sense that if somebody were to show up to try and recruit our Reed Richards for the Interdimensional Council of Reeds, he would say no, because they would require him to leave his family. And since he just had a baby, and since he's in love with Sue, and he also loves Ben Grimm and Johnny Storm, he would say no, which could lead to some problems. The Maker, which is an evil variant of Reed Richards, is a very big part of Avengers Secret Wars in the comics, and this movie could produce the Maker on screen. So here's my theory when it comes to the Maker in the Fantastic Four First Steps and going forward in the MCU. In the comics, ultimately the Interdimensional Council of Reeds gets attacked by the Mad Celestials. Only 4 of them manage to escape, and they actually escape to Earth 616, the main universe. The Mad Celestials would eventually follow them and appear at Earth 616. However, a future version of Franklin Richards, the son of Reed and Sue, shows up with Galactus and defeats them. I believe something similar might happen here. Reed builds the multiversal portal. Another variant of Reed Richards shows up to invite him to join the Interdimensional Council of Reeds. He declines, which might upset the Reed who came to recruit him, and then the Interdimensional Council gets attacked, perhaps not by the Mad Celestials, but by Dr. Doom, who might view them as a threat. Also, Doom could use the portals that they created to travel the multiverse for himself, and that perhaps is how he becomes such a giant threat. Then one of the surviving variants of Reed Richards, most likely the one that came to visit Reed to try and recruit him, gets angry at Doom and Reed for not joining because perhaps with him they could have taken on Doom, and he becomes evil, turning into the Maker. Now this is obviously very different than what happens in the comics, but that's what the MCU is. News stories that are inspired by stories in the comics, and a lot of people actually believe that the secret cameo could be Ioan Gruffudd, who played Mr. Fantastic in the 2005 version of the Fantastic Four with Jessica Alba, Michael Chiklis, and of course, Chris Evans, which could also open it up again for Chris Evans to return as the Human Torch. But what the multiversal bridge is leading up to, which we know because the Russo brothers have confirmed this, it leads up to the Fantastic Four actually joining our current Avengers in our main 616 timeline. It's already been confirmed by everybody at Marvel Studios basically that the Fantastic Four are going to be in Avengers Doomsday, and they are going to be key characters in the story. So they have to get over to the main universe somehow, and what drives them to the main universe is most likely Galactus. We know that Galactus is the main villain of the Fantastic Four First Steps. In the official synopsis released yesterday by Marvel Studios, it literally says Galactus is coming to devour their world, and he has a personal reason for seeking out the Fantastic Four specifically. So they are trying to run. And since Galactus can and probably will devour their entire planet, the only place for them to really run to is another universe. So whether they came from the 616 universe originally or not, ultimately doesn't really matter, because we know that they're going to end up there. It'll be cool if they give us some story about how they originally started off there, an experiment went wrong, they ended up in another universe, and that is the reason why Reed decides to build the bridge. Like, it all connects very, very well and could lead for a very, very awesome story, but ultimately why he decides to build the bridge is irrelevant, because we know that whatever happens, the Fantastic Four do end up in the main 616 universe. But to me, it all flows very, very well. They start off originally in the 616 universe. You could connect their science with other people like Howard Stark and Hank Pym. Then an experiment goes wrong. They end up in this other universe. This universe is more advanced, so it allows them to do more. They go into space, get exposed to cosmic rays, get their powers, and ultimately try to get back to the 616 universe by Reed Richards building a multiversal portal that would do that. Once it's complete, it triggers the arrival of another variant of Reed Richards from the Interdimensional Council of Reeds, and ultimately Galactus shows up and tries to devour their world, and they have to leave to the main 616 universe via the bridge. And in the process of that, possibly create the Maker. It all would work very, very well, and it makes complete sense given that we are in the multiverse saga right now. But go ahead, let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. Do you think this would work for the Fantastic Four, and do you think that this is actually what we are going to get? let me know. And be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest Fantastic Four breakdowns and, of course, Marvel news. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.